Good evening. My name is Tom Popcheff. I'm the president of the Speedway Redevelopment Commission, and welcome to the regular session of the Speedway Redevelopment Commission for Monday, May 20th. I'd like to call our meeting to order, and let me make the introductions at our table. Immediately to my right is Gordon Rundle, a commission member. To my left is Brody Duncan, vice president. To his left is Rhonda Schwartz, the secretary of the commission, and to her left is Dr. Terry Reed, who represents the Speedway School Corporation. On my very far right is Mr. Tim Gropp. He is our Economic Development and Redevelopment Director for the town of Speedway. And in the audience, we have Tim Ramian, who is our Executive Assistant. So our meeting has been posted publicly as required by state law, and I have already established that we do have a quorum. So the next item that on our agenda I'd like to address is opening the lectern to any public comments. And I do welcome everybody in the audience. Thank you for coming this evening. Would anybody like to make a comment to the commission this evening? Frank? Yep. Would you please state your name?
Frank Merritt, President of Speedway Trails Association. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As I think all of you are fully aware, this month Speedway Trails was awarded just under $4.9 million for the Next Level Trail Grant application that we submitted earlier this year. I just want to bring it to the attention of the Commission in speaking to the Parks Principal Planner. The City of Indianapolis will probably focus its efforts on Phase 2 of the Eagle Creek Greenway on the next application. And I'd like to encourage the Commission to consider the P&E connection of that trail. That northwest corridor would be the only remaining portion of the original 5-mile loop that Speedway Trails has envisioned for our town, and with the City of Indianapolis submitting potentially later this year, it would behoove us to sit down and develop a plan of attack for finishing the P&E and how it interfaces with the Eagle Creek Greenway when they resubmit later this year. Of course, I would love to be able to complete that project too in the next 3 to 4 year timeline as given by the Next Level Trail Grant application. Once we sign our documentation with the DNR, we have 3 years, 9 months to complete what we have set out to do as far as connected west and east, and I think it becomes imperative for that northwest P&E section as Speedway Trails continues to fundraise over the next 4 years. With our parking monies, we'll be apt to assist in property acquisition, but we just need to sit down with the town and figure out our plan of attack as we approach Cunningham and Crawfordsville Road and what we want to do with that corridor over the next 4 to 5 years.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your comments, Frank. And there has been some general discussions about that connection as well. So thank you for addressing that to our attention.
We did offer a support letter. Indianapolis did submit that one in the first round. We did support that application as well.
Yeah,
that's an exciting connection.
They submitted 5 applications on behalf of the city, or endorsed 5 of those applications. I think the DNR is going to reach out to all applicants that did not receive a grant or permission, and then coach them on how to reapply. And I think one of the topics is for cities to narrow it down to 1 application. So I believe that they are focusing with the development that we have for the B&O to get that Eagle Creek Greenway connected and really start finishing that 16-mile corridor that they've already laid down 2 sections of.
Congratulations. That's a huge win for the
We're
community.
excited. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Rightfully so.
Any other questions for?
No, think so. Thank you very much, Frank. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
So if there are no further comments from the audience, let's move on to our next agenda item, which is the approval of our executive and regular session meetings held on Monday, April 15th. Those meeting minutes had been previously distributed, and I believe everyone's had the opportunity to provide any comments, and Tim, an excellent job on those meeting minutes. So unless I have any further edits or suggested changes, we will accept those by consent. So the executive and regular session meeting minutes have been accepted by consent. Thank you. All right, the next item is the approval of our Register of Claims for the period of April 13th, 2019 through May 17th, 2019. Those expenses have been previously distributed electronically and also in hard copy this morning by Monty Combs, our clerk treasurer for the town of Speedway. I noticed that we do have the expense for the demolition of 5301. Tank removal is on this register of expenses. Anything else unusual, Tim, that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, actually, nothing unusual, but several things that are a little different this month. First, on the supplementary one, you'll notice that our operating account balance jumped up significantly. That's because we closed on the Wilshaw bond this month, so our cost of issuance went back into our operating, giving us a nice, healthy operating account. It's good to see that.
Very nice.
Beyond that, as you mentioned, there's actually several expenses on this claim docket that come out of TIF. If you see a 315, so most of those are related to the 4501 West 16th Street demolition and tank removal and cleanup process. So Hoosier Equipment Services was the removal of the tanks on the property. And on the second page, raised demolition was the demolition of the building. And then we actually added additional stone. Once we got done with the demo, we needed a few extra loads of stone, so there was a change order there. And then if you go on the bottom, Wilcox Environmental, there's two there. One is the Phase 2 that was done on the property to investigate to make sure we knew what kind of environmental cleanup was going to be needed. And then the professional services, the 5,603 was all of the testing that they did during the removals, as well as then documenting it so we have a report that can go to IDEM and or any future owners that might question the environmental cleanup. We have that all documented in place. So beyond that, we had a couple others, the Veritas Group, 16th Street improvements, some of the engineering work that's been done thus far on the 16th and Main beautification project, and then the Speedway Economic Development Strategic Plan. That was approved by the council, so we'll be submitting everything to Okra soon, and hopefully by August or September, we'll get our reimbursement from Okra for the strategic plan. And then one other note, there is a expense, Simpson EJ refund of filing fees for $300 on the second page. That is not our expense. We'll be removing that. That is a BZA expense that snuck its way onto our claim docket. So we caught that and we'll correct that.
Great. Anybody on the commission have any further questions?
The reimbursement's $40,000, right, for the Okra?
Correct. So our total bill for with the expanded scope was about $68,000. So we'll have a little bit of expense, but that was contemplating in our operating budget.
Yep.
Anybody have any further questions of Tim? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the Register of Claims as previously submitted. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we accept the claims as submitted.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Comments? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the motion that is currently on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to our project updates. And for the Wilshaw Project, I'm going to ask Tim Gropp, Mr. Gropp, to give us that report. He has got some information from David Rainey, who's with Veritas Group, who's representing our interests on that project. So, Tim?
All right, several updates on this project. So the Wilshaw Apartments first, they're about 23% pre-leased at this point, so things are going well. Landscaping has started. You've seen them out there working on the concrete finishing work along Main Street. They're starting the landscaping now. Jay, the construction manager, plans on having the west side of the building landscaped along Main Street by end of the day Thursday, weather permitting. Landscaping will continue over the next several weeks. They had a couple issues on the south side of the building that they had to work through, just grade levels, and there was also, in a way, we got lucky. When they had run the utilities, one of the utilities ran a pipe right through the sewer line that nobody knew about. So we found out about it when we were getting ready to do that side, and so luckily there weren't that many tenants, and we caught it early, but they had to dig up some of the parking lot and do a repair on the sewer line and reroute the other line. I can't remember what the other line was, but just did a directional bore right through it. So that got corrected. It's all perfect now, and everything's flowing as it should be. Custom Concrete's working on finishing final concrete work. South End work is expected to continue with Plaza Concrete over the next 2 weeks. Tenant finish. So Fun Days, which is leasing the south side of the south building, they're hoping to have their tenant finish completed by the end of, or sometime in June. There's still a few approvals that are being worked out with signage and everything, but they are working on that. In the interim, Fun Days is scooping on our property on 1300 block, and from what I've seen, everyone seems pretty excited about it, and I have tried some of their product, and I feel that I will be excited about it as well. So we're excited. That'll be a good addition to Main Street. On the hotel side, all the foundations are complete. Both core structures have been topped out. The elevator shafts and the stair and utility corridors. So if you drive by Gate 1, you should see those. They are complete with those now. Plans on pouring, F.A. Wilhelm, had to think what that was, sorry. Plans on pouring the west side only of the slab on the metal deck this Thursday. We did ask that they do not work this weekend, so they will not be on site Friday through Sunday this weekend, which is kind of standard practice for us just because we have so many other things going on. They're going to be working till Thursday at 5 o'clock, and then they will be done for the weekend. They plan on pouring the east side of the metal deck on 5 next week when they get back. And then structural metal studs will start on completed deck on the week of 5/28. Under slab work will proceed later in June after second floor is complete. So
making good progress.
making very good progress.
Yeah, excellent. Anyone have any further questions about the Wilshaw project?
On the apartments, I saw they were having an open house, both Friday and Saturday from noon to 3, that anyone can stop by and take tours of the apartments.
Oh, yes, I believe I saw that as
This
well.
upcoming,
Yeah, yep.
trying to catch all that race traffic?
It's kind of
Hey,
Oh,
they need to
okay.
get some more tenants.
yeah, I don't know all the details on that, but I did
Yeah.
see it posted, and Daredevil, I think, was
Yeah.
providing some beverages for it, and it was kind of a street party they were going to have during
Oh, that'd be
the
interesting.
weekends.
That's just what we need. Another party. Great.
Where are we at with the parking signage for the lot behind?
Good update. So I believe he was supposed to confirm, I didn't see it in here, but the ticketing system is now in place. So they ended up putting it on the north building instead of the south. We'll just kind of see how it goes. There should be no permit parking in there anymore. So we had allowed some of our permits in there for temporary, but none of our permits for businesses should be parking in there now, just public, and they should be grabbing the ticket and putting it on their dash. We have the electric in place for our public parking sign. I've reached out to our sign company and have not gotten a response, which I need to follow up on,
Fair
because
enough.
that's not a great feeling. So we'll see where they're at,
Okay.
but there was a fabrication period in there, but it should be close to the end. So I'd imagine that the public parking sign that we approved should be here anytime. I was hoping it'd be done prior to race time, but it does not appear.
Doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Does not.
Well, that leads us to the 1300 block environmental cleanup, and again, some parking considerations that you'll have to make as a result of the remediation.
Yeah, so we have good news. We did receive the IDEM approval letter for the remediation. I'll emphasize, this is not our remediation. This is between the insurance company and IDEM. So everybody's come to agreement, and they're tentatively planning on starting June 10th. So luckily for us, the OSC&A picnic and the car show that weekend is June 1st, so that won't interfere with it. We will have to do some shifting of employee parking during that time. The intent, it's actually a two-phase system. They're actually going to excavate some of the contaminated dirt and then inject as well. So they're covering it. It should be cleaned up very nicely. But they will be tearing up that parking lot to do so. That's where the majority of the contamination is, kind of just to the north of the Bell Building there. So, but it's right now it's tentatively that week of June 10th, and we'll just see how everything kind of falls in place. But we're excited in the fact that we've been waiting on this since last December, but we kind of want it done and replaced back as we're actively marketing that project to potential tenants. So it'll be good to have the environmental side done. It'll be a little bit of testing period at the end as well. So,
Tim, during that remediation and the excavation, will the alley be closed during that period of the time the work's getting done?
yeah, so they're going to be bringing roll-off containers on, and then taking it. They'll dig out the section, test the soil, determine where it has to go, and move on.
Okay.
So, yeah, there will probably be some alley closures in that time. We don't want them putting the roll-off containers necessarily on the area that we tore out because it's softer.
Yeah.
However, Wendell probably won't like them on the alley because we just paved that alley about a year ago. So we'll work out some of those logistics, but we got to be able to get the trucks in and the roll-offs in and out. So we'll just have to find the best case scenario for that causes the least amount of damage. So.
Okay. Any further questions of Tim?
Also should be noted that we're confirming the exact date, but it looks like Auto Tech is winding down their operation there on Main Street. So we anticipate the demo of that property should be coming up soon as well. So we'll confirm an exact date, but they had only paid half a month rent for this month, anticipating a move over to their new facility.
They were still there this morning.
But they're still there, so.
And it's past.
We're still
halfway
confirming.
through the month, isn't it? Last time I checked. So, great. Well, let's move on to the 2500 North High School Road project.
Yeah, so we continue to make progress there. There's a lot of activity, a lot of interest in that site. We provided you some details on the deal we're trying to put together with El Rodeo. We're really close. I think an MOU has been signed with gas stations on that, so we're in the due diligence period for everything that goes along with that. And then negotiations are still ongoing with the cell tower for excess land and just cleaning up that area as well. So everything seems to be in line. We're still targeting a July closing on the property. There's some zoning issues that we're looking into now. We might have to go through a rezone process to get what we want on that site. I hope not, but we're hoping to solve most of that through the declarations and covenants. But if it's an actual zoning issue, we'll probably take a different route on that, which will take a little bit of time. It shouldn't affect the process of the dirt, cleaning up the site, but it would affect Circle K's process, because technically at this point, they might not be allowed to be there. So we're just trying to confirm all that and make sure that we get that covered before we move forward with anything.
Anybody have any further questions, Tim, on 2500? The final update is our strategic plan. Tim?
Yeah, so we're going to put this on just to keep everybody up to date on what we're working on and the progress now that that's in substantially final form. Just wanted everybody to know that it was presented to the council at the last meeting and they approved to send it on to Okra, as I'd mentioned earlier, and that, we're going to, once we get past race season and a couple of these projects, I think Tim and I will sit down and kind of organize how we want to track our progress on specifically those immediate needs and figure out how we want to report that back to you. But unintentionally, several of the processes are kind of moving on their own, so that's a good feeling. But we feel like there's progress being made already, and it'll be a good directional map. And as with any economic development plan, there's always curveballs that are thrown at you, and you kind of got to adjust to projects you weren't aware of or things that you didn't think would pop up. But we feel it's a good plan, and we're looking forward to implementing.
Great. Be glad when that finally gets submitted to the grantor and we get the
Yes.
Okra funding. Great. Any further questions of Tim about our strategic plan update? Great. Well, let's move on to the next item. And for this item, I would like to introduce Mr. Rick Hall, who's with Barnes and Thornburg, and he is going to give us an overview and an update on the resolution that we will be hearing concerning an authorization of a lease between the Speedway Municipal Facilities Building Corporation and the Redevelopment Commission. Rick, thank you.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here this evening. It's been my pleasure to work many years with Tim in other capacities, and have always enjoyed that. I won't tell you how long, but it was quite some time. And also, I know Barnes and Thornburg's had a strong relationship with the town of Speedway going back to when I was a young lawyer. So it's my pleasure to be here this evening. This relates to the 2500 project and the commitment that the town has under the agreement with the developer to provide improvements to a roundabout at 25th Street and High School Road, and then also some other infrastructure and site improvements that will enable the development of that project. So the way this would be financed is that the town would issue bonds. They loan the proceeds of those bonds to the building corporation, and then the building corporation would approve the expenditures of those funds for the development. And this is a common way of financing it when your funds are done on an economic development project, or going to be expended on an economic development project and assist the development of the site. The way the bonds are repaid is there's a lease between the building corporation and the redevelopment commission that is payable from the TIF revenues from the project, and also with the property tax backup. The first step in the process for approving the financing is to hold a public hearing, as you've advertised for tonight, with respect to the lease between the Redevelopment Commission and the Building Corporation. After that, the lease then would go to be approved by the Building Corporation also, and by the Town Council, and then the Town Council through the Economic Development Commission would approve the issuance of bonds. So we're hoping to do those approvals in June, and then we would look to complete the approvals of the lease in June, the approvals of the bonds in July, and look to close in early August would be our timetable. In addition, in order to segregate the TIF revenues that are going to be produced by this project, there's a second resolution on your agenda later this evening that's directly related to what I just described, and that resolution pulls the site out of the existing consolidated TIF area and creates its new own separate TIF area called the Founders Square allocation area. And that way the revenues from this project can be kept separate from the others. It's all still part of the consolidated redevelopment plan, so you would have the ability, or redevelopment area, so you'd have the ability to expend those TIF revenues throughout the area, should you so choose. But this way we can account for it separately. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple clarifications on there. First of all, I'd like to apologize for our lack of adjustable height for our microphone. We'll work on that for the future. There will not be a roundabout at 25th and High School. It'll actually be an intersection improvement. We had looked at both options, and the roundabout option, while it was more efficient, was about $2.5 million versus about $600,000 for an intersection improvement. So just want to clarify that. As a reminder of how this deal is structured, so there's about, when we did our due diligence, there's about $5 million worth of infrastructure work and site work that needs to be done. So our deal was we will be selling the land for about $3 million, and then we're funding the gap, which is the $2 million through the TIF. He mentioned the property tax backup. The intent is to never use that if possible. And the way we structured this bond is to keep it as, not maximize the bond. We're keeping it at about the 2 million that we need. There might be a little bit of fluff depending on rates and everything at the end. But we're not maxing out everything we can do here. As we mentioned, this is a little different than Wilshaw and Speedway Marketplace. And those two, we actually took them out of the TIF and both the economic development area and the allocation area. This one, we're making its own allocation area, but we're leaving it in the overall TIF district. So any excess revenues would be able to offset other expenses that we have throughout there. It's more of a timing of that allocation area. And then, as he mentioned, we hadn't talked a lot about it, but the development will probably be called Founders Square. So it's a good time to put that out there. I think that's all I had. So.
Does anybody else have any further questions of Rick? Rick, well, thank you very much. And what I'd like to do right now is I would like to suspend the regular session meeting for the Speedway Redevelopment Commission and convene the public hearing. So the public hearing has now been convened, and I'll be more than happy to accept any comments from the audience or the general public concerning this proposed lease and our resolution. Yes.
Helen Kellum.
Hi, Mrs. Kellum.
I came specifically to find out, I read the legal notice a few weeks ago in the paper, and it mentioned the 25th Street going from Lyndhurst to High School Road. And I wonder why would it be involved over towards Lyndhurst if they're focusing on High School Road and 25th Street? Is there anything going on there that I ought to know about?
I don't know.
Because
Rick, is that just clarification?
So to have in order to enter into the lease, there has to be an asset that is leased. Okay. In order to enter into the lease, there has to be a town-owned asset that is subject to the lease. And that asset does not have to be the actual site that's being improved as part of the project. So this 25th Street is a convenient asset for us to use as part of the lease, but there's going to be no improvements other than directly related to the project.
I'm not sure that I
end.
still understand this lease business either. But I wonder, this project at 25th and High School, is that going to affect the businesses along there, Union Jacks and the new veterinary hospital?
No, it actually will improve the traffic flow because of the improvement to the intersection at High School.
I know it's a bad intersection.
Yeah, so that's going to be a tremendous improvement. I'm not certain that you'll see any, tremendous competitive developments to those operations, but it should have no material negative impact or effect on those
I believe
businesses.
something about a demolition was mentioned also in that legal notice.
Yeah, the legal notice, so part of the deal is that the two gas stations will be acquired by the town in
I
exchange
see.
for them building a new one.
So
off
the
the
majority
corner.
of the roundabout would be to the west?
There'll be no roundabout.
No,
I thought you just mentioned a roundabout.
Yeah, we had looked at both a roundabout and an intersection. We decided the roundabout was not cost effective for the project. So we'll be adding a stoplight and turn lanes on High School to help with the traffic flow there.
So that'll dramatically improve. And we did look at both
Stoplight there
options.
is close to that is to Crawfordsville Road?
Mm-hmm. There's been a traffic study done on that.
Okay,
So.
I have to take your word for it because I can't see it. But thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kellum. Any additional comments? Well, hearing no additional comments, I would like to officially close the public hearing for the resolution of the Speedway Redevelopment Commission that we've been discussing. And I'll also now reconvene our regular session. So the next item of business is the acceptance or the approval of the resolution number 2019-04, authorizing the lease between the Building Corporation and the Redevelopment Commission. So do I have a motion to accept Resolution 2019-04?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to vote on 2019-04, resolution approving the lease between the Speedway Municipal Facilities Corporation as lessor and the Speedway Redevelopment Commission as lessee, and the matters related thereto.
Okay, so I have a motion to accept Resolution 2019-04. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions? Well, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the motion that is currently on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, and thank you, Rick. I really appreciate your comments and the overview. Great. And Mrs. Kellum, thank you for your comments as well. All right, the next item on our agenda is our new business. And the first item of new business is another resolution, and this is a resolution determining the need to capture incremental assessed valuation, resolution number 2019-05. And I will ask Mr. Gropp to just give us a brief overview of this resolution, which is fairly customary.
Yeah, so this is an annual reporting requirement by the state, which every year the redevelopment commissions have to analyze if their projected increment is in excess of what they need to not only pay off all their debts and obligations, but also project money. There's actually a number where you actually have to pass through to overlapping taxing units, but we're nowhere close to that, so it's not as dire. But this is reporting to this will be mailed to the overlapping taxing units, informing them we will not pass any through this year. We're pretty close to our debts and obligations, meeting our income with just a little bit of money to do some projects, as you're all very well aware. So I don't know if Rick wanted to add anything to that as well. So.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Any further questions before I entertain a motion? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept resolution number 2019-05.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to vote on 2019-05, the resolution determining the need to capture incremental assessed valuation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second on the table. Any further questions, discussions? All right, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of accepting resolution number 2019-05, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Now, the next item is resolution number 2019-06, which was alluded to earlier in Rick's discussion. And Rick, if you'd like to give us another overview of this resolution.
Sure. As I mentioned before, in order to separately track the TIF revenues from the project, the 2500 project, this resolution removes from the existing consolidated TIF area that site and puts it in its own separate tax increment allocation area so that all the revenues from that project can be kept separate and then used to pay the financing that was discussed earlier. As you'll see on Exhibit A to the resolution are the boundaries of that area, and then also on Exhibit B to the resolution are descriptions of projects that could be used, the money could be used for in the consolidated redevelopment area as a whole. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And this is the first approval that it'll be back before you for public hearing at your next meeting.
Correct. Yeah, thank you for that overview. I think it's fairly clear that this resolution accompanies the approval of the lease. Does anybody have any further questions of Rick? Great, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept resolution number 2019-06, as we have just discussed.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept Resolution 2019-06, amending an existing allocation area and creating a new allocation area.
Great. I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments?
Just say, I saw an error on the Exhibit B. BB has the wrong address listed. I think we were confusing projects on that one. So should we make an amendment to this to correct that prior to approving?
Yes.
Okay. So in Exhibit BB,
Yep.
where it says 2502 North High School Road, I'm just making sure I'm making the right correction here.
Okay.
That should actually be 5300 Crawfordsville Road.
Oh, yeah.
Which would be the new town hall address.
Right. That's correct.
So with that amendment, I think we'd be okay. Correct.
Okay, so with that amendment, we will go ahead and take the motion for a vote. All those in favor of accepting resolution number 2019-06 as amended just a moment ago, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, and thank you for catching that, that address correction. All right. Next new business item is the approval of the contract with Globe Asphalt Paving for the work located at 11th and Main, new parking lot surface adjacent to the World War Memorial. You have the documentation in front of you. Competitive quotes were solicited, and Globe was the lowest and most responsive offer that we had received. So I would like to entertain a motion to accept the invoice from Globe Asphalt Paving in the amount of $47,060 for the paving of that site, that parking site at 11th and Main. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion. We approve the quote for the contract with Globe Asphalt Paving Company.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further questions?
Well, it's not an invoice, though, right? I mean, it is.
Well, so you're approving the contract.
Right.
It should be noted that this was originally going to be paved and done by the town. In discussions, we decided to shift this over to the SRC at this time for cash flow reasons, which is why this is coming back for formal approval by us. The lot is done, but we need to formally approve the asphalt contract, which was originally approved by the town, but needs to be approved by the SRC now. And then this amount will be reduced from our B&O trail match that was, the SRC is paying the 20% of the B&O trail match that was fronted by the sewer funds that we have to reimburse. This will come out of that obligation that we owe
Yeah, it'll
back.
be that net reduction.
Is there additionally a reimbursement from the War Memorial?
Yeah, so there was a portion of, part of the deal with the War Memorial was that they put money towards the pavement and construction of the lot as well, so.
So there'll be a reimbursement there as well?
Yeah, we've already received that.
Okay, we have,
correct.
okay, perfect,
Yes.
perfect.
So I have a motion and a second, and no further questions. So let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the Globe Asphalt Paving quote and also invoice, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. All right, now we have Now, this is a proposal for the construction of a perimeter fence around the area of contaminated land just north of 10th Street and just east of Polko. I think that's adjacent to Allison Way as well, if I'm not mistaken.
West of Polko.
It was west of Polko,
West of
excuse me,
Polko.
west of Polko.
Correct.
Didn't have my map handy, I'm sorry. We did get, we requested 3 competitive quotes. We received 2 competitive quotes as required by Indiana procurement laws. And staff is recommending the acceptance of the proposal by Richmond Fencing in the amount of $133,500. And Tim, you want to give us a little bit of an explanation of the reasoning behind this work?
Yeah, so as you might recall, back in, I think it was, oh geez, what year was that now?
Oh, it was some time ago.
A long time ago, we acquired a small parcel of land to straighten out Polko Street. It ended up being part of a larger contaminated area. So we had unfortunately acquired, so we are now on the hook for some of the a portion of the remediation. So we had worked out a deal with Praxair to come up with a finalized agreement there. Part of that was payment back for some reimbursements of testing and design, and then we took out a portion of what we were going to owe, instead of it being just chain link fence, that being a pretty prominent spot coming into Speedway from 10th Street across from Allison's headquarters. We wanted it to look a little nicer, so we asked them to reduce the amount that we'd owe for the cleanup in exchange for us taking care of the fencing. So this fencing will surround the area to keep people out, but it'll look very similar to what they have on Main Street, the 8-foot tall aluminum, kind of looks like wrought iron, but it's aluminum fencing with a spike on top. So we wanted a nicer look coming into the community instead of just chain link there. In exchange, they reduced our amount that we owed for the cleanup, and then they took on all the responsibility of the cleanup and the long-term maintenance of it. So this is our final portion. We've already paid the first $100,000 on this out of the cleanup fund, and this will complete our obligation towards that unfortunate area over there.
And the source of funding for this?
So there was a fund identified that was back when there weren't as many insurance carriers didn't cover as much contamination cleanup the town had established and kind of forgot about. So we were able to take this out for the intended use of that fund, which is environmental cleanup and not covered by insurance in your community. So this does not come out of any of the SRC funds, but has been allocated from this environmental cleanup fund, and that will close out this environmental cleanup fund, and the remainder of the money will be shifted, has been shifted to the general fund for the town's operating, as that fund is no longer needed. So it was fortunate timing for us to have found that money to be able to cover this
Yep.
expense.
Yeah, that is very fortunate. And, I think the town and the SRC has done an excellent job in cleaning up the old industrial areas that we've had here within our community, which provides a much safer environment for future developments. Any further questions of Tim? Well, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the proposal from Richmond Fencing to construct the work.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the quote from Richmond Fencing for the 10th and Polko fencing project.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second on the table for the acceptance of the fencing proposal. Any further questions, comments? Let's take it to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the proposal from Richmond Fencing, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Let's get that fence up. Let's hope it comes in quicker than our parking sign.
Sorry, I do have one question. Is the fence going up post work being done?
Yeah, so just a couple notes on the cleanup. So Praxair is leading the cleanup portion of it. So They actually received 4 quotes. It ended up being a little bit higher than they anticipated, which does
Good
not
deal for
affect
us.
us because we're locked into what we are owed. However, they did come back to us and ask us if they could potentially use some of our excess dirt, which I said, absolutely. So I did send them the testing report, and they're checking into it because obviously they don't want to put
Yeah.
something contaminated on top of contamination. So I personally hope that it's fine and they can use as much as they'd like to cover it. But so they're running a little bit behind where they were anticipating because they're trying to get the number down a little bit and select the firm that's going to be doing the cleanup. We will keep everyone posted as that goes along because just because of the nature of what it is, will probably be a lot of questions seeing people out there as they take down all that brush. We were hoping they would have done that prior to it greening up, but it just timing didn't work out. But then they will re-sculpt that hill. Everything stays on site, but they'll take the brush out, they'll re-sculpt the hill, and then they'll cover the hill with fresh dirt.
It'll be capped.
And then, they'll cap it, and then they'll cover it, and then we'll put the fence up. So the actual fencing will be a while down the road here. But we have now covered all our obligations under the agreement to complete this.
And that's a good position to be in. All right, the last item of new business is the approval of the encroachment agreement with the Speedway War Memorial Foundation. They are currently located on parcels at addresses 1058, 1060, and 1068 Main Street. And as everyone realizes, the memorial has been constructed and is available, and it's just in front of that new parking area that we paved. But they're on SRC property. So we did not convey title to the World War Memorial Foundation. We will retain title, but we'll need a license agreement to allow them to actually encroach upon that property. And they'll provide all the necessary releases and insurance, naming the town and the SRC as additional insureds to protect us from any claims or any liability. The license agreement had been distributed in our packet, fairly simple, and, is there any further questions of Tim or comments that you'd like to make, Tim?
Just this encroachment agreement was always contemplated, and it has actually already been approved by the War Memorial Group. This shift is, again, same thing with the paving of the lot. The original intent was we were going to buy the property and turn it over to the town. We decided just to, since we own all the other lots on Main Street, to keep this one as well. So instead of it being by the town, it's now by the SRC. So we don't anticipate any issues, and this is nothing that they're not expecting. They've actually already approved it, just with the town listed instead of the Redevelopment Commission.
Yeah, the terms and conditions are essentially the same as they had previously executed with the town. So the town's agreement will be voided. This one will be in force in its place. Any further questions? Well, I'll entertain a motion to accept the license agreement that has been distributed to us.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the encroachment agreement with the Speedway War Memorial Foundation.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, let's take it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Well, that brings us to, and there is no old business for this evening's agenda, so that brings us to our director's report. Tim, I know you've mentioned quite a few things. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just a couple additional items. One, just checking my notes here. One is at the town council meeting last week, a major announcement of a second phase of an expansion of Allison Transmission was approved. This is exciting, about a $40 million project, which is a innovation research center, which will act as their main I won't say marketing, but kind of their display of all the newest technology and innovation and what they do over there. So this will be right on 10th Street, kind of where their test track and their softball fields are now. All together between Phase 1 and Phase 2 that has been approved is approximately $70 million of investment and just shy of 300 new jobs committed. So great investment by Allison Transmission to continue to invest in Speedway. We're working through some of the details on that, but we're hoping that there will be a better announcement and groundbreakings coming up really soon for those projects. They're moving pretty quickly. It was the environmental testing facility was the first one, and then this Innovation Research Center that was the second one. So excited about both of those great additions to the community, and will really transform 10th Street, which is another good reason to be cleaning up this 10th and Poco side as well. Just wanted to, this is race time, obviously, so a couple quick updates coming into race weekend. First of all, I always like to thank Tim Ramian, our executive assistant, who keeps me sane during this time. It's been a it's been a little overwhelming this year, too, just because we've been so busy. Things are going well in Speedway, and we have a lot of projects on our table that are taking a lot of time and effort. So I've been pulled away from some of the race details like I normally would do, and Tim's been taking care of all that. So just thank you for all you're doing in the office. We got a lot of work to do this week. Real quick, as you're aware, we allowed the Parks Department to park our lots this year, and things are going very well. There's been no issues, and they've raised quite a bit of money so far for park programming, additional events in our parks, and it was a really good way to keep the money that's raised on properties the SRC owns in the town. And I think it's worked out really well this year, and they've been very grateful. And Tammy Smith, our Parks Director, is fantastic and has worked really hard at this, but very excited about that additional income to help expand. She has a million ideas, and this will help her expand some of those programs. So that's worked out very well this year. And then we just, something a little different, we've had a lot of vendors come to us this year for properties, so we've been able to place several of them that will be coming out. We'll have tents on the Wilcox lot, as I like to call it, on 16th and Main for DirecTV and Shell Gas doing some surveying and different things. Just provides a little extra income for use of our properties during this time. We have the video screen vendors again coming in, as well as River West Coffee will continue to be there, and Fun Days Ice Cream is working with us. So quite a few vendors to manage, a little bit of logistics there, but it also brings in some of the income for us as well. So we were able to lease out some of our lots, add some vendors, and have a nice little income for the SRC as well during this time. So.
Thank you, Tim, and I'm really pleased how the parking arrangements have evolved over the past 2 or 3 years. I do miss not seeing you walking down Main Street with a bunch of signs and a cash box and tickets.
There's still plenty of time.
There's still plenty of time. You may be called into action. Thank you for that update. Any of the commission members like to make any announcements?
The Rocket on Main is Friday night on Main Street there. I believe it starts at 5:30.
Great.
Yeah, it's a pretty good
Anybody
lineup this year.
Yes, Wilcox is sponsoring the bands, so they've got a good
There's
lineup.
three bands,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, as always, it should be a fun time on Main Street. Any other updates, comments? Well, I really appreciate everybody showing up this evening. It's always nice to see individuals coming to our meetings, and I also want to remind you, be safe this weekend. A lot of traffic, a lot of activity going on. And as always, please support our Speedway businesses, industries, and services. So I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.